Yeah, so welcome, Chris. Glad to have you at Abstract Security here. I know it's you're getting into things, your first couple of months, and we just announced you at the company. So want to give you an official welcome in. Wanted to talk to you today about some of the threat intelligence work we have going on here, and some of the news we have going on, and kind of how we see customers using threat intelligence and really getting value out of their threat intelligence. Yeah, in the real world. So welcome.
Thanks, Ryan. Excited to be part of the Abstract family and talk about this thing with you because I know that you and I have operational roots in this space from way back in the financial space.
Yes, that's definitely helped me inform kind of how I kind of view our customers' challenges is, working in the kind of big financial space. I know you have many years there as well. Definitely gave me some perspective on kind of the scale really that a lot of customers are seeing in their environment, right? The scale from terms of the amount of kind of threat intelligence they have coming in and just the amount of data that they need to collect and analyze as part of their security stack. So yeah, I guess, so you're obviously coming from the Intel vendor side as a kind of Intel provider. How have you seen customers using threat intelligence from a SOC perspective? Like what's some of the most interesting use cases or ways they've been applying it in the real world?
Yeah, so I think not much has changed from probably you and I were in a seat doing threat intelligence, meaning people still have a provider or a feed or something from an ISAC, and they see an interesting indicator or something, a hash, right? Some type of value that they then have to go investigate on their network. And still to this day, many are literally just cutting and pasting and then pushing it to their SIEM to investigate, right? I don't think that's changed. Some have become a little more sophisticated, maybe, of taking as you said, so I come from a threat intel company, Flashpoint, just recently, and I seen what others are doing, which is, all right, I'm going to integrate into my SIEM, easy, or I have a threat intel provider, a tip in the middle to do that work for me. Lo and behold, as budgets are starting to get decreased and people are looking for more efficiency and automation, I think you're starting to see a lot of people try to do it themselves again, meaning how can I just take my intel, whether it's commercial or proprietary, and do my hunting in a SIEM-like environment? And I think that's honestly where the future of all this is headed, like adding efficiency and ability for more SOC members to do threat intel per se, operational. In the past, I think when you and I were in a threat intel operational space, threat intel really owned everything and then would pass it on
Yes.
to the SOC to investigate. I think more and more, even when I was at my previous company, I was like, but why? Why is there a middleman slowing things down? Especially in this day and age where events are happening 24/7 and you have 24/7 SOCs or MSSPs that can be doing that work. Why wait for someone to do it in the middle? So you're starting to see if I'm able to take a feed or look at indicators and hunt within my own SIEM, I can at least do analysis. I'm not going to break anything, and then turn that into a possible incident event or do a lot of head start on the findings and then push it to a threat intel team to maybe do some attribution or what group is this, have others seen it, etc.
Yeah. The threat intel function or the SOC, right, shouldn't need to be managing lists of indicators. Like that's what they're paying the security vendors for. You should just be able to take your whatever threat intelligence that you want as a security team and apply that against your events and let a analytic product like Abstract Security do that correlation for you. And
Or
one of the things I've seen is like there's this overwhelming sense of where do I start with threat intelligence, right? There's all these feeds out there. There's actually been there seems to be some consolidation in feeds. For me, like 10 years ago when I got into this space, there was all kinds of open source threat intel out there, and a lot of that seems to have gone away. And it seems like a lot of customers are picking kind of a handful of intel vendors that are delivering, the right intelligence for their use case, right? For their kind of industry sector. If they're a bank, maybe focus on the banking malware intel, right?
yeah, Cybercrime.
Bring that in, do the correlation against your events, and go from there. So yeah, cool.
And then Ryan, actually on that, that's exactly what appealed me to, start Abstract with you right back in the day, and then obviously join now is, day in, day out, as enterprises, as the most mature enterprises, we're building large teams. I could see that not scaling to, let's say, the mid-tier, the regional banks. They're never going to hire like an army worth of folks to be able to, operationalize threat intel. So how does a solution like Abstract help those folks scale? And it's easy. It's just taking, like I said, your home baked threat intel or things you're getting from an ISAC or your peers or a commercial solution, and quickly be able to hunt on a platform, investigate, query, run searches, and then bring that back so that you can actually start taking action on all that intel.
Yes. So that's really what I would consider I'll call like the analytics use case, right? Like taking my intel, doing the correlation against my events, and doing the analytics on that. The other kind of high level use case I've seen come up is this idea of using threat intelligence to enrich my events, right? So I have, let's say, for example, some authentication events flowing into my analytics tool. Those have maybe like a source IP address associated to them. And I actually want to not just alert if there's a match to a known bad IP, but I actually want to add context to that event because later on when I'm doing just searches or reporting, I might want to use that threat intelligence as part of my report or as part of my queries. Yeah, this is something I've seen come up more often. And there's a whole kind of suite of kind of pipeline and observability products out there trying to tackle this space coming online as well. I don't know if you've seen that at all, Chris, or kind of heard some of those conversations.
Yes, I mean, to me, the threat intel space was always hard to define. And what I mean is, if I were to take 10 customers, 10 enterprises, some of the largest to mid-tier to small ones, to even technology companies, and ask them what does threat intel mean to you, everybody would have a different answer. Some are very geopolitical focused, some are very focused on identity access management, DDoS, malware, nation state malware, physical security, fraud, etc. So it's very hard to have a solution that is applicable to all from one vendor per se, including the use cases that you just described. I think those discussing or thinking about those use cases are thinking ahead, as folks should be, right? You still have some that are in the traditional, hey, I need, a phishing campaign. Just tell me who the senders are and I'll do that query. All right, pretty easy. But those that are kind of evolving in the threat intel space and moving above and beyond, which similar use cases to the ones you described, are the ones that are probably like the more sophisticated, that will continue maturing and continue looking at innovative vendors in this space or applying innovative solutions. And in the others, nothing wrong with not having those capabilities, but it's, you're probably, your threat landscape is much smaller, right?
Yep.
You're probably, your brand isn't as well known, or your footprint just isn't as large as some of those others, which is fine. I mean, that's where we can come in as well. It's just we apply to small use cases, medium use cases, and of course, the heavy, large, Splunk type of deployments that are out there as well that scale and absorbing all those logs, bringing them in and searching on them.
Yeah, so when you were in your Flashpoint days, I know one of the big use cases, I'm sure for you, was customers wanting to ingest some of the observables that you were providing into their either detection tools or into their like networking tools, right? And one of the things I saw on the threat intel kind of management side, someone who's aggregating all these feeds was, I have all of this intel that I want to put into these products to do detection, but like I'm getting hit by limitations all the time, right? And certain products are better and worse than others in terms of the limits they can handle. But oftentimes, we're talking about, on a scale of thousands of indicators that you can send in for either detection or prevention into these networking and detection tools. That was a challenge that I saw come up again and again. Customers paying a premium for intelligence from a vendor like Flashpoint, and they're only able to leverage really a small sliver of that um, in their tooling. Um, and that made the story all about, well, how do we prioritize the right intelligence into the right systems? And something that we're focused on here at Abstract is making sure you don't have to make as many of those prioritization decisions, right? Like we're really building our platform at scale, and can handle up to millions of pieces of threat intelligence that you want to do, from the correlation and from the kind of enrichment and data pipeline perspective. That's something I saw consistently, and I'm sure you ran into as well.
Brian, that reminds me. So back in our day, I believe that we were one of the two financial institutions that had Palantir as a solution. And I think back in those days, we had it because it was really the only one that would scale and absorb so much logs, right? But what was the end use case? It was taking stuff like threat intel and then searching across all that data set. At the end of the day, that's what it was, right? And of course, other use cases and fraud and whatever, but that was our strongest use case. And we've come a long way where companies like us, Abstract, you no longer need that forward deployed engineer and a very sophisticated and heavy engineering. You can deploy us in our cloud environment, your cloud environment, more importantly, and start doing those queries. I think that's definitely a big differentiator in this day and age from back then. And also, one thing I didn't like about the Palantir model was we, at my last institution, had to buy all these feeds because where else would we get the feeds from, right? And I always wondered, why don't these like SIEM vendors and the Palantirs of the world just have a data feed? I know that at your previous tip company, I think you had a data feed, and I think that was a strong use case for how to sell it, and people were using it. So this is why, instead of us building a feed, we're partnering with your own feed, or we're letting you use, as we mature this abstract intel gallery, your own intel, and process all those millions of indicators across the data sets.
Yeah. So that brings me to, I wanted to get a quick shout out into what we're going to be announcing here in a few days, which is our Abstract Intelligence Gallery. Basically, it's a way to bring in your key intelligence vendors right into a common platform that can manage that intelligence, correlate it against your events at scale, use it for enrichment against your events from a data pipelining perspective, do keyword alerting on that intelligence. So that's something that we're launching here in a few days. We've been working on for the past several months, and super excited to get that out into the field and in our customers' hands. And you and I are going to be, along with some other folks, are going to be in Vegas this coming week as well, right? So we'll be around and definitely looking to meet with anyone interested in learning more about our product and our company, and meeting all the Intel partners that we have out there, and getting a chance to touch base. So yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm personally excited about this because I think it finally answers what me and my last company and many of our friends in the Intel space also were trying to answer. So what? Time and time again, both from current customers and prospects, everyone's like, yeah, we understand you have a bunch of Intel and data, but so what? I think we're helping answer that finally, right? Well, here's what you can do with all this data and make it actionable and query on it and hopefully find something that you didn't know about. And then that starts an event and prevents an incident.
Exactly. It's a great way to put your threat intelligence to work, and actually in a single platform, really operationalize that data and really get some value out of it, right? So great. Well, appreciate the conversation, Chris.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you in Vegas, and great talk. Talk to you next time.
Next time, see you in Vegas.